My name is Kimberly W. Alexander, and I'm 29 years old. The phone buzzed on my nightstand, cutting through the quiet like a blade. The screen glowed with his name, Chase. It was 11:37 p.m. on a Tuesday. I had been awake since 5 for a project deadline that had nearly broken me, and sleep had finally started pulling me under. I let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again, insistent, relentless. A perfect little symbol of the last 5 years of my life. With a sigh that felt like it came from somewhere under my ribs, I answered. Chase, everything okay? The response was a wet, broken sob. Kim, he choked out. She ghosted me, Maya. After 3 dates. I thought she was different. I closed my eyes. The familiar script unfolded like a scene I had rehearsed too many times. I was the understudy who knew every line. Slow down. Breathe. Tell me what happened. The story tumbled out. A vague text, an unread message, a dating profile suddenly gone. It was the same story I had heard with Rachel, with Dana, with the woman from the yoga studio who wore silver rings and understood his soul for exactly 9 days. Only the names changed. I'm such an idiot, he said. You're not an idiot. She's careless, I recited, my voice already on autopilot. My body was screaming for sleep, but my hand was reaching for my jeans. Do you want me to come over? Would you? His voice became small, almost childlike. I have ice cream. 20 minutes later, I was on Chase's couch, watching him destroy a pint of Ben & Jerry's while dissecting every text, every pause, every possible hidden meaning. I nodded in the right places. I made the sympathetic sounds. I handed him tissues. This was my function. Kimberly, the emotional support human. High-end appliance with a heartbeat. When the tears finally slowed, he looked at me with red eyes and said, I don't know what I'd do without you. Seriously. You're my rock, like the sister I never had. There it was. The word did not sting sharply anymore. It landed with a dull, sickening thud. Sister. I had heard it before, maybe a dozen times, but that night it felt different. It was not a description, it was a sentence. A neat little box he kept nailing shut every time I tried to breathe outside it. I smiled anyway. A thin, tired line. Any time, Chase. As I walked into the cool night air, the camera in my mind finally pulled back. I saw 5 years not as a slow-burn love story, but as a montage of servitude. Me driving across town at 2 in the morning to help with his flat tire. Me listening for hours while he cried over women who did not deserve a paragraph of his grief. Me remembering his birthday, his mother's medication allergy, the name of his childhood dog. Meanwhile, he routinely forgot whether I drank my coffee black or with cream. I was the foundation of his life, buried underground, unseen, expected to carry weight without cracking. A week later, our group dinner was supposed to celebrate me. I had landed the Jacobs account, a promotion with a real pay bump and a corner office. For once, I had something of my own to share. Matt and Jenna were leaning in while I explained how Henderson called me into his office after the Q4 presentation. That's huge, Matt said, clapping my shoulder. You've been grinding for that. I know. It finally feels like, oh my God, you guys, look at this one. Chase shoved his phone across the table. On the screen was a woman in a leather jacket holding a guitar. Her name is Lena, he said. She's a musician. Her bio says she's looking for someone who understands art. Can you even? Jenna gave a polite smile. Matt stared at his drink. Chase beamed, completely unaware he had just stepped on my moment. It's refreshing, you know? Not like the boring corporate type. Then he patted my arm affectionately. The table went quiet. I said nothing. I just took a long drink of beer while my promotion turned to ash in my mouth. 2 days later, I asked him to meet me at the grind. the coffee shop where we had spent 100 Saturdays. I told him the truth, that being called his sister hurt, that we spent all our time together, that I felt like we were a couple in everything but name. Chase sighed with patient pity. Kim, what we have is special. It's pure. I love you, but I'm looking for a spark. With you, I feel safe. Safe. The nicest way anyone had ever called me insignificant. I stood, placed money on the table for my coffee, and said, Okay, I understand now. Goodbye, Chase. Then I walked out. The first week without Chase was strange. Not painful in the way I expected, not some dramatic withdrawal where I cried into pillows and reread old messages like a teenager in a sad movie. It was stranger than that. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels unnatural at first, because your nervous system has been trained to expect alarms. No midnight panic calls. No breathless updates about women he had known for 4 days. No, Kim, are you awake? No sudden need for reassurance, advice, emotional translation, or rescue. I did not announce my exit. I did not send him a long letter explaining how deeply he had hurt me. I had tried explaining at the coffee shop, and he had answered with, safe. That was enough. So I performed a clean digital surgery. I blocked his number, Instagram, Facebook, even the LinkedIn connection he never used unless he wanted to congratulate himself on my promotions without actually reading what they were. One by one, I removed the doors he used to enter my life without knocking. His first attempt came the next day, before lunch. Are you seriously mad at me? That's a mature Kim. We're adults. Talk to me. I saw the preview on my watch before it disappeared into the blocked message void. For a second, my thumb twitched out of habit. Then I remembered his face at the grind, patient and pitying, as if my feelings were a scheduling mistake. I went back to reviewing a vendor proposal. Day 3 brought the punishment phase. Fine, be that way. Lena and I are going to that new synthwave show tonight. You'd hate it. Too cool for your classic rock taste. That one almost made me smile. He was trying to weaponize FOMO while accidentally describing my personal version of hell. I was home in sweatpants, eating pizza, watching a documentary about deep-sea fishing, and for the first time in years, nobody needed me to interpret a text message from a stranger. With all the space Chase had occupied suddenly empty, I found myself with energy I didn't know I still had. I poured it into my promotion, not as a distraction, but as proof that my life had been waiting for me to return to it. I stayed late because I wanted to understand the new role, not because I was avoiding someone's crisis. I started going to the gym because the weight of iron made sense. Effort went in. Results came out. There was honesty in that exchange, unlike the endless emotional debt Chase kept opening in my name. I reconnected with Matt and Jenna as myself, not as Chase's emergency contact. We went to a baseball game on a Saturday afternoon, and I realized halfway through the 3rd inning that I had not checked my phone once. I was present. I was laughing. I was not scanning the horizon for the next problem dressed as intimacy. Week 2, Chase tried a different angle. Kim, this is ridiculous. I need to talk to you. Lena is being weird. She borrowed $300 for studio time, and now she says she's in the creative zone and won't answer my texts. Sound familiar? There it was, the first crack in the spark. The sound familiar was clever. He was trying to turn me back into his co-victim, the one person who would sit beside him and say all the right things while he burned himself on the same flame again. I deleted it and finished my workout. The gossip came a month later, not from him, but from Jenna over beers. She hesitated before saying, So, have you heard about Lena? I shook my head. Nothing, and I prefer it that way. She told me anyway. Lena had become exactly what everyone except Chase could see she was. She borrowed money and called it artistic support. She let him pay for dinners, drinks, rides, tickets. Then he found her flirting with one of his friends online, while still posting moody captions about loyalty. The spark burned out, Jenna said, and he's a mess. He keeps saying he lost his best friend and his girlfriend at the same time. I took a slow sip of my beer. He lost his best friend the moment he decided she was just his sister. The words came out calm, not cruel, just factual. I felt a distant ache, but not for him. For the version of me who would have once taken that news as a summons. The Kimberly who would have grabbed her keys, crossed town, and held his heartbreak like it was more important than her own dignity. That woman was gone. I didn't hate Chase. That surprised me most. Hatred would have meant he still had a room inside me. Instead, he had become information, a pattern, a lesson with a name. And 2 months into that new quiet, in the architecture section of a bookstore, I met someone who asked me a question and actually listened to the answer. I met Nathan 2 months into my new life in the architecture section of a bookstore on a rainy Saturday afternoon. I was standing there with a book on mid-century modern design in my hands, pretending I knew more than I did, when a voice beside me said, "Good choice, but if you're just getting into it, that one explains the philosophy better." I turned and found a man with kind eyes, dark hair slightly damp from the rain, and a smile that felt curious instead of performative. He held out another book. "Less glossy photos, more substance," he said. I took it and laughed. "I'm branching out." "That's usually where the good parts start," he replied. His name was Nathan. He was an architect, which explained the calm confidence with which he had corrected my reading material. We talked for 20 minutes right there between shelves about Frank Lloyd Wright, ugly office lobbies, the emotional crime of beige carpeting, and why buildings either invite people in or tell them they are only tolerated. It was a conversation, not a rescue mission. He asked what I did, and when I told him about the Jacobs account and my promotion, he actually listened, not waiting for his turn to talk, not scanning the room, listening. I asked him about his work and found myself genuinely interested, not because I needed to perform devotion, but because his mind made rooms feel larger. We went for coffee after that, then dinner a few nights later. It was easy in a way that almost frightened me. No crisis. No emotional bill arriving before dessert. If Nathan had a hard day, he described it without handing it to me like something I was responsible for repairing. If I offered perspective, he took it or didn't. When I talked about work stress, he listened without turning my exhaustion into a comparison contest. It felt less like falling and more like finally standing on level ground. One evening, we were cooking together at my apartment, my clean, peaceful apartment that no longer had a drawer full of Chase's spare things and forgotten chargers. Nathan was chopping onions with suspiciously professional precision while I stirred sauce at the stove. My phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number, 9:14 p.m. "Kim, it's Chase. I know you blocked me. I'm using my cousin's phone. Please, I'm sorry. I see everything clearly now. Lena used me. You were the only real thing in my life. Please call me." I stared at the screen for a second, then handed it to Nathan. "My brother, apparently," I said with a dry smile. Nathan read it, one eyebrow lifting. "That is a lot of desperation for someone who wanted a sister." I laughed before I could stop myself. Not bitterly, freely. "Are you going to call him?" Nathan asked. "No," I said, and the word felt clean. I'm exactly where I want to be. Then I blocked that number too, washed my hands, and went back to the sauce. The first time Chase saw us together was at the Oak Barrel, a low-lit gastropub Matt had chosen for his birthday. It was 3 months into my new life, and Nathan's presence beside me felt natural, like something that had not forced its way in, but had been welcomed. Our fingers were linked on the table while Matt told a terrible story about accidentally joining the wrong video meeting at work. I was laughing, really laughing, not the careful laugh I used to have when part of me was always bracing for Chase's next collapse. The door opened, letting in a strip of evening light, and there he was. Chase froze in the entrance. His eyes scanned the room, found me, then dropped to Nathan, to our joined hands, then snapped back to my face. I watched the color drain out of him in a visible wave. It was the look of a man realizing the furniture he assumed would always stay in the same corner had walked out, bought its own house, and changed the locks. He recovered with a brittle smile and came straight over, ignoring the rest of the table. Kim. Oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever. His voice was too bright, too loud. His eyes barely touched Nathan before returning to me. Who's this? Nathan's hand gave mine one small squeeze. I smiled, calm and polite. Chase, this is my boyfriend, Nathan. Nathan, this is Chase, an old friend. The word boyfriend hit him first. The word old finished the job. Boyfriend, Chase repeated, his fake brightness cracking. Wow, that was fast. He turned to Nathan with a smile that tried to reclaim territory. I'm her best friend. We've known each other for 5 years. I didn't make Nathan answer that. I looked at him with real warmth and said, my best friend is right here. Then I turned back to Chase. It was good seeing you. We were just leaving. I stood, slipped into my jacket, and walked out with Nathan's hand resting gently at my back. Behind me, Chase made a small, broken sound, but I did not turn around. His world had just shifted without his permission. Mine had finally stopped revolving around him. After the oak barrel, the dam broke. Chase started reaching me through a rotating door of new numbers, each message arriving like another little performance in the play he had written, where I was supposed to return during the final act. The first stage was nostalgia. Kim, it's Chase. Remember when we got lost driving back from the coast and sang terrible 80s songs until we found the highway? I miss talking to you. We should catch up, just as friends. I read it while Nathan and I were assembling a bookshelf in my living room, both of us surrounded by screws, wooden panels, and directions clearly written by someone who hated humanity. I deleted the message and handed Nathan the Allen wrench. We were building something. I had no interest in walking back into ruins. Then came self-pity. Lena was a mistake. You were right about everything. I was stupid and blind. You were the only person who ever really knew me. I'm so lost. I showed Nathan that one while we were waiting for takeout. He read it, handed the phone back, and said, he doesn't miss you. He misses the service. The sentence landed so cleanly, I almost felt embarrassed by how long it had taken me to see it. Chase did not miss my laugh, my thoughts, my ambition, or the woman sitting across from him all those years, hoping to be chosen. He missed the emergency line, the therapist without a bill, the sister he could emotionally drain without responsibility. Then came anger. How can you just replace me after everything we've been through? 5 years of friendship, and you throw it away for some guy you just met? I need you. You don't get to do this. That one I screenshotted and sent to Nathan with the caption, my brother is having a moment. Nathan replied, tell him brothers don't get boyfriend privileges. I laughed out loud in my office, and that was when I knew Chase's drama had become distant noise. Not a crisis, not a wound. A private joke between me and the man who loved me without making me audition for the role. The final confrontation happened in the cereal aisle of a grocery store on a sleepy Sunday morning. I was comparing sugar content between Cheerios and Raisin Bran, living the glamorous life of a woman who had finally earned peace, when a voice behind me said, Kim. I turned. Chase looked hollow. His hair was messy, his face pale, his usual bright performative energy gone. He looked like a man who had been sleeping badly for weeks and blaming everyone but himself for the nightmares. Chase, I said, placing the Cheerios in my cart. Please, he said quickly, Just 5 minutes. I made a huge mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. I folded my hands over the cart handle and let him speak. I was scared, he said, words rushing out like he had rehearsed them in the mirror. Scared because what we had was so real, so solid. I kept calling you my sister because it felt safer than admitting what I felt. But it wasn't brotherly. I was lying to myself. I love you, Kim. I know that now. He stopped, breathing hard, tears gathering in his eyes. He had laid the confession at my feet like an offering, expecting me to pick it up, dust it off, and pretend it had not arrived years too late. I looked at him for a long moment. I did not see the man I had once loved. I saw a stranger blocking the cereal aisle. I felt pity, but distant pity. The kind you feel for someone in a sad film when you already know you are not part of the ending. I appreciate you saying that, I said. Hope flashed across his face, quick and desperate. So, can we talk? Coffee, maybe? Please, just one conversation. I shook my head gently. I'm happy with Nathan, really happy. And I'm glad we can finally be what you always said we were. His expression tightened. What does that mean? It means I'm glad we're friends, I said. Or at least, that we can be, someday, from a healthy distance. It's better this way. Take care of yourself, okay? Then I met his eyes and said the word he had given me for years. Bro. It landed softly, not as an insult, but as a verdict. His face shattered. The hope, the pride, the fantasy that I had only been waiting for him to realize my worth, all of it collapsed in the fluorescent light of aisle 7. I did not wait for him to answer. I pushed my cart forward, wheels rolling smoothly across the polished floor. My phone buzzed. It was Nathan. Don't forget coffee, and I love you. I smiled, real and warm. I love you too, I typed back. Behind me, Chase was still standing there, but his grief had become background noise in a life I had finally chosen for myself. The chapter was closed. Mine was just beginning.